Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 418. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Mark, who's the James Wan of video games?
Ooh, James Wan. Probably, Ooh, I can't think of his name. Is it Shinji? No.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Shinji Mikami?
Yeah.
So you haven't watched Malignant yet.
No, is that...
Because I feel like, had you watched Malignant, you would have just insulted Shinji Mikami.
Ooh, okay. So, is this
No,
more
I think you're
of
right, though. I think someone who, like... I think generally speaking, though, someone who is, like, kind of bound to horror and horror games, I think that's the fair surface level assessment.
Bloober felt too harsh.
Well, no, because I think Bloober at least still has a little bit of, like, there's a thumbprint there. Not that there's not a thumbprint with James Wan, but...
I would rather watch Wan movies than play another Bloober game, though.
Fair. Yeah, I watched Malignant, and it's, thankfully I played Pokemon Black through the whole thing, so I had that going on, but...
Nice.
It definitely had, like, oh, this is a bad 80s horror movie vibe to it. It just, it was a lot prettier because it was made last year, or maybe 2 years ago, but yeah, it was, yeah.
It was on my list. Maybe
Dude,
not so
no,
much
you should
now.
watch it.
Yeah?
You should watch it just for fun.
Okay.
But it was one of those ones where we were both just like, what is happening? Why? And then, like, parts where I was more invested in Pokemon, and it was like, did you see that? You have to rewind it. Look at how stupid this looks. It was that kind of stuff. It was, like, very bad. And the actual, yeah, there you go. I don't know who I would call the James Wan, because I think he's got a shtick to him, and he's got a formula where, like, it's just like dumb popcorn horror entertainment, right? Like,
yeah,
it's completely wide net. Anybody can sit down and watch one of those movies.
I think depending on, like, what exactly is the theme of the movie, like, obviously it's all horror, but, like, what kind? Yeah. I think he might have a better chance of excelling in, because, like, I went back and watched, like, the Saw movies again, and a lot of them just don't hold up well. Like, just the way it's edited, and it just feels very angsty to watch. And then
They're such a product of the time, though. Like, that was, like, that era was filled with angst and, like...
Yeah, and, like, every movie after it was, like, from the director of Saw, from the producers of Saw, blah, blah, blah. And then, but then you get The Conjuring, and I really like The Conjuring.
Yeah, they were good. They weren't bad.
Like, as it went on, it was like, okay, whatever. But the first one, at least, I still really appreciate.
Yeah, I remember liking the first one. I've kind of checked in and out with the rest of them. Or I've been just filled in on the plot lines and stuff like that as they've come out. But
yeah,
they're good. I think they're, again, like, good popcorn. Like, you're not gonna watch it and it's like, hey, The Conjuring is my favorite horror movie. Like, that's never gonna happen. No one's favorite horror movie is that, unless they're like,
I'd put it up there. I'd put it in a list.
Favorite?
Not my top favorite, but
that's
it's definitely
what I mean.
one I would go back and rewatch. Sure.
Yes, but
second
like,
one,
if someone's
no.
like, dude, what's your favorite? Recommend me 5 horror movies. Like, I don't think it would be the first 5.
No. It'd be like in the lower half probably.
If someone had said, like, I've never seen a horror movie, recommend me 5. Like, there's no way that would even be.
Yeah.
It would be Nosferatu.
Oh man.
Vampires in Brooklyn, Nosferatu. That's the top.
It's a very quiet list.
I would say it's broad.
Well,
it gets you everything you need.
I mean, it's a silent film, right? Isn't Nosferatu?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
There's
music,
supposed
I guess,
to be a remake by the dude who did The Witch in the Lighthouse.
Right, because that was like his dream thing.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's happening. He's making a Viking movie, and
I think it'll happen.
I don't know. I would love to see what a modern Nosferatu looks like, but we shall see. Because I like when old things come back, in a way. Like the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. That shall live on forever. We did not get... We had too much conversation last week that we could not get to this one, so we're going to talk about it this week. But a rumor started circling that Nintendo would be adding Game Boy and Game Boy Color games to its Nintendo Switch online library of games. The rumor kind of started on some podcast, and then someone else said it, and then Eurogamer picked it up and verified through its own sources. And then it kind of seems to be one of those just generally accepted rumors at this point. Here or there, whether it is or not, the thought crossed my mind. So what are some games you think would complement the Switch well? And I ask that specifically because we know we're going to get a ROM dump of whatever, right? We're gonna have Super Mario Land and 2 and the Golden Coins. We'll get the Wario Land, the first one. Those things will happen, obviously, when it makes sense anniversary-wise, and to work them into Pokemon Home for some celebration. We will get Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. All of those things will come. But what are some games that you think would work well on the Switch specifically?
I'm probably thinking... First one that came to mind was Kirby's Tilt and Tumble.
Oh. Did I play that? No. I'm thinking of Game Boy games that had the big back to it, and I'm thinking of Pokemon Pinball. That's the one I had.
Right.
But,
no, it was just a clear pink cartridge, if I remember correctly. I think that would be a
Didn't
cool
that have
one.
the rotate stuff with it?
Yeah, it did have a little thing inside, so like you had to like lean, like the Game Boy had to be flat basically, and you had to like flick it up if you wanted Kirby to jump over things and actually like tilt it around. But I'm thinking like you could probably do that with a Pro Controller, or if you're playing handheld.
Yeah, that would be nice to. Yeah, do you think they would go through the trouble to emulate that one?
Probably not.
I want them to, like, that's what I want out of this, is I want them to bring back stuff that's more that you wouldn't expect, right?
If anything, they'd probably just kind of cheat the system, and you can just use a D-pad to move Kirby and A the jump or something like that.
Yeah, that no, I think that's a good one. I think you had another one?
I was going to say, because you're talking about Pokemon. Pokemon Pinball.
Yeah, that would be. You need that.
Really dope.
I think that would be great for that, especially if you could flip it so that you could get a more full view of the table.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. There's something to, like, I think you could do well with I don't know, when I started thinking about what games I think would work well, I started thinking more about the things that I think I'd want to see in emulation better.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, yeah, that's where I start to get conflated. Like, I'm picturing certain games, but I'm picturing them with specific features. Like, I would want to see the ability to jump between, like, the Game Boy Color filters and things like that built into this. And I think, like, that versatility would complement the Switch well, but I don't know.
Well, I like what they did with the 3DS when with Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, because before you would need each person to have each game, and then they beat it, and they get a password for the other game to start a new file. Well, you're like carrying your save over your progress into the next game, but you had to like link up with the other person to do that. It was so like convoluted, but they fixed that for 3DS where you could just do it all on your own. You were able to
cool.
transfer that progress. So for the first time, I was able to beat both games and then unlock the final dungeon and actually fight Ganon. But, that was an update just exclusively for 3DS, so I could see them doing stuff like that for the Switch, possibly.
I never finished that. I remember buying the one on 3DS and never finished it, but I should go back to that. Because I think that's one that would work well. Is I think those and the Link's Awakening, like having a nice adventure on the screen again would be really, really good. But again, like being able to pick it up and play it in your hand.
Yeah.
I guess generally, are there any games you just want on that platform?
Out of Game Boy Color, it's like I didn't play too many. Believe it or not, back then, that like Pokemon, I think, was probably the highlight for me with Game Boy. But like, it wasn't until like Game Boy Advance I started really like exploring what was out there. I mean, Tetris is that's an obvious one. Gotta have that.
Do you think they'll put that one on there?
I think so. Because all they have is what, Tetris 99, right? And,
well, Tetris Effect is coming.
Right, and then you have the Puyo Puyo Tetris thing. But heck, having OG I think would be pretty good. Wait, is it in the NES library?
What, Tetris? No.
No.
So that would be, I think I would like that because it would add a bit of that original flavor to it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people prefer the Game Boy one over the NES one.
Yeah, because I think more people played that one. It was like, in every box with it, but I love the NES specifically for the color scheme.
Yeah.
So I've got a list of games that I want, and I also brought some cards to show you. But as soon as I thought Game Boy games were coming to Switch, I was like, I want anything that Sunsoft put out on the Game Boy. Give me the Batman games. Like, this will never happen. But the Batman games, Trip World, all of that stuff, I think, top of the list. Part 2, Castlevania the Adventure. Nobody likes that game. I don't like that game. But the opening stage has the best soundtrack ever. It's super good. Battle of the Holy. We've played it on like 1,000 episodes of this podcast, even though there's only been 418. It's a very, very, very good song. And the game's not great at all. But it was my first exposure to Castlevania outside of staring at the NES cartridge. So there's that. A couple I've picked up through the years that I think would be fun. I've got this real dirty copy of Amazing Penguin from Natsume, but it's just a fun little I don't know. It's like a puzzle game.
Okay.
I think many people would want to see the 94 Donkey Kong brought to it. This kind of, in a way, set the stage for some of the moves they would later do with Mario, with like the triple jumps and stuff in 64. I think some crazy people would say this Dr. Mario should be on there.
Never heard of that one.
What else do I have in here? Is this a Game Shark? Oh, there's your Pokemon. Yeah, Pokemon Pinball. That's gotta be in it. Is this still have a AAA battery in it? No. Good. I was smart.
It's all like corrosive if it was.
Yeah.
I can see. I know we talk about a lot of like the bigger hits for the most part, other than like. Well, I don't know. I guess to you, the Penguin one's probably a big hit, right? But it's not a heavy hitter like Nintendo's first party games. But so I could see them adding more stuff like that Penguin one. And for some reason, this one that comes to mind, I believe it's called Spanky's Quest.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you play as like a monkey. It's like a platformer. It's a very slow platformer. I don't know why that is in my head, but that's what I'm going to. And I could see them adding something like that. It just, at least in America, I could see them doing that. And then Japan gets the cooler stuff.
So, yeah. I am curious to see. Yeah, that's always the fun thing, because I have the Japanese account on my Switch, so I can grab the other version. So I'm curious to see how those libraries differ. And see the cool box.
Wasn't it Game Boy for that one RPG or whatever it was? the For Whom the Frog Bell Tolls or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like that would be cool. Translate
Yeah,
it.
they should bring that over. Yeah, there's no. I think that had a European version. So but yeah, I think to your point there, like games that were rare that have become these sought after things, like just slap them on the console, let everybody give them a shot. Do you think that they will bring back the Wormlight?
Wormlight for the Switch.
Yeah.
It just goes right into charge port or whatever. It's like upside down, right? Was it underneath?
Yeah, the one I had.
Yeah, it would
my
be.
brother and I had silver and gold ones to match our copies of Pokemon Silver and Pokemon Gold.
I forget how many I had. I got one that came with like a whole like kit for your Game Boy, where it had like the magnifying screen and charger, AC, like a car adapter.
Sure. Just hanging out with some Yoshi's Cookie, no big deal.
Dude, Wormlight in the back of your parents' car, driving at night.
Nothing better. Dude, this Game Boy Color still works. Like, I don't know when I've changed these batteries last. Probably a couple years ago. But, I mean, still.
I still have my, I still have my modified one. Well, lightly modified. The shell.
I need to do that at some point. I don't want to cut this one up, but I want to...
No,
I think we have I love that thing. Look at that.
Game Boy Horror.
And it's functional, right?
Yeah. And,
yeah, that's...
I don't have batteries in it at the moment, but I have my Game Boy camera still in it.
My camera's somewhere here on one of the... Yeah, there it is, up on the shelf. Anyway, I guess the other question is, I think a lot of people are probably wrongfully wondering why this isn't Nintendo 64 coming to Switch Online. Would you prefer N64 over Game Boy?
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, like, I don't hate Game Boy, but just because of my experience with the libraries and whatnot, I definitely had more time spent with the 64 that was more impressionable on me as a kid. But Game Boy,
looking back,
Game Boy's probably easier just to work with.
Yeah, for sure. I think also Game Boy, you have an easier time at getting the library filled out quickly with a lot. Like, you could, off the top of my head, I mean, I'd have to sit and really, like, whatever, but I could probably spit out 100 games between Game Boy and Game Boy Color that you could put on that service. Where N64, I'm at, like, 15. You know what I mean? Like,
and I'm the opposite.
Do you think there's more... I'm thinking, like, creme de la creme, which means cream of the cream. That's like the top layer of the cream. I think that if you really want to get creamy about the N64, it's like the first party output, some third party licensing stuff you probably will never be able to source, and then wet tricks. Which I'm all down for wet tricks. Like, put it on the platform. Let's play wet tricks. Let's talk about wet tricks. Not enough people talk about wet tricks. But let's build the N64 list. What do you got?
Mystical Ninja.
Yeah.
Mystical Ninja 2.
Yep.
Chameleon Twist 1 and 2.
Okay.
Kirby 64.
Yes.
Now,
do you play Kirby 64 while listening to No Strings Attached by NSYNC, or is that optional?
It's optional, because you can also
staple a Nickelodeon magazine back together on the same day you do both of those things, but accidentally staple your finger to the magazine.
And it's greasy from the McDonald's French fries from your Happy Meal. Yeah.
All right, so we got Kirby 64. We're at 5.
Okay, you can maybe throw in the Castlevania games. There's 2
Look,
of them.
if you're getting Konami on board, they've got to at least, you know. And Konami's in charge of Bomberman these days, so then you get your Bomberman 64.
F-Zero X.
All right, okay, yeah.
Extreme G.
Yep.
Vigilante 8.
Sure. Some people would.
Blast
Yep.
Corps.
Okay.
Pilot Wings.
We're at 13, folks.
Well, sure, why not? We can throw in the Banjo and Conquer. Diddy
Man,
Kong,
so
Diddy
you've
Kong
done all
Racing, Lego Racers, Bomberman Hero.
All right, I'm impressed, and you've not even named the obvious ones.
Right, like I'm trying not to.
Yeah, like Metroid 64.
I mean, I did name Kirby, but
Earthbound 64. Like none of those things have. Yeah, all those real games. No, but I mean, even Kirby, I don't think is an obvious one because typically Kirby games come to say goodbye to a console. So that was happening right on the cusp of GameCube either being out or soon to be out, or it was already announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kirby's a really good answer. But yeah, you didn't even hit the obvious ones that I think most people foolishly would shout out at the beginning, right?
Yeah. So that's probably like another 15 right there.
All right, yeah, you've countered me. You've countered me well. I'll say this to move it back to Game Boy. I do hope that if this Game Boy thing is real, that we get the original DMG model themed Joy-Con available for Switch Online members.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Well, now I want the Game Boy Color clear purple Joy-Con.
Yeah, maybe this is the time where it actually happens, right?
Maybe it's each one. Maybe like left Joy-Con is old Game Boy with the good D-pad, and right Joy-Con is the clear Atomic.
I would love it. With along the so if you're holding the Joy-Con along the like bottom corner, you just have a little like color logo. You know what I mean? Just yeah. Anyway, do you think that knowing this information would have been a better surprise had you seen it in a direct and not a headline?
I don't think it impacts me too differently. I think because like you never know what to expect with a direct, and yes, it would be. It's surprises are always nice when it comes from Nintendo with stuff like that. But at least for anybody who is like a little doubtful, at least, and they like this news, at least they have something to look forward to. Unless Nintendo does that thing with when something leaks, they don't do it. So
yeah.
If I was to pick a side, I would probably just go with the surprise and wait for it. But I'm not mad about this either.
No, I mean I'm not mad, but like when I saw the headline, it was like generally my reaction to it was boredom. After like I feel like if it had been during a direct, I may have been more excited. I only say that because I read it and I was like, "What? That's cool." And then I was like, "Well, wait. Did Nintendo confirm this not yet? No? Okay, so it's not real yet, but I don't know. I guess whatever." And then I sort of like you and I have talked about this. Like I don't like it when we're talked to like we're idiots, right? And like I now that I've been made aware of that, corporate gamer talk crap that so many companies like to do, and it like that stuff really grates on me now. Where like I'm to the point now where I turn off whatever presentation it is. I don't care if it's like, hey, make sure you stay tuned to the end because we're going to reveal Bloodborne 2. Like, I will watch the trailer after the fact. I'm not going to sit through someone pandering and like, wow, we're so excited today. Gamers, listen up. Like, all that crap. Like, wow, you're telling me that we're doing, no, you're telling me to turn off the show. That's what you're telling me to do. And I do. And I walk away. But yeah, I think generally I don't like leaks. I think that what happens with leaks is that they're too vague to paint an entire picture and answer all of my questions, but they're specific enough that they're believable and real, right? So we end up where it's like, okay, well now I know Game Boy games are coming to Switch. Where I feel like if this were, but then I have so many unanswered questions, right? This is real enough that I'm like, well, yeah, of course they're coming to Switch. But now I'm like, well, what games? Why wasn't this in 64? Are they going to do I have all of these lingering questions that are unanswered, where if this had been Nintendo putting it out, I'd have all this stuff answered. And now all I feel like the only thing that happens with the leak is that the closer we get to the actual announcement, I'm building the hype for this thing myself. Because my expectations are, well, they're going to do this. And the longer that the silence happens, the more I'm like, well, it's probably because it's definitely real and we're going to get this and this and that. They're going to make a Wormlight attachment for the Switch. And when they don't make that, then I'm like, it just completely cut down.
Right. Yeah. I can see that where it's like, especially if it doesn't happen on like the soonest direct. And you're like, what happened?
Right. Like, dude, I mean, remember when Eurogamer leaked the Switch? Can you imagine if that hadn't happened? Like, if any part of what their like confirmation of what the system was not at all, like, it would have been, or if it had been like delayed, different, I don't know. Like, thankfully, everything kind of came out and it was 1-to-1, but it's very rare that happens for a game itself. Hardware, by the time they reported on it, that was, incredibly accurate. But yeah, I feel like there are certain games and things like that where it's like, and then what you create in your head, you can never like live up to that. But I like it when Nintendo can announce a game like Big Brain Academy on a Thursday morning and then, hey, it's coming in December. See you in a couple months. Like, that was complete surprise, complete shock. It's not like, but if someone had leaked, hey, Nintendo's working on a Big Brain Academy, then my mind starts to wander like, oh, what is that? Are they also going to bring back this? Do you think they're also going to, does that mean maybe we'll get Wii Sports again? And then I'm like waiting for Wii Sports. And when we don't get Wii Sports, like what happened?
Right. And the way I'm picturing it right now, when stuff like that happens, it's like you have a glass and in the glass, obviously a liquid, but like, that's your hype. That's your excitement. And then when you see the leak, you already some of your hype's already poured out. So yeah, so it's like basically so by the time you see it, it's like you want to have that same level of excitement still, but I don't know. Then obviously,
but the leak pours it a little bit, and then you just keep sipping at it because you're on subreddits reading people's speculation that you start to incorporate. Your mind incorporates as fact, and none of it's real. I'll say to contrast, I've loved watching Jeff Grubb on Giant Bomb's Grub Snacks week over week. It's one of their newer premium shows where he's from GamesBeat and he comes over and basically he highlights some of the general news each week from, an insider's perspective. And he typically starts off the show with like leaks of his own in a way. I like really de-emphasize leak because it's more like, yes, it is, but it's not leak in the like sensationalist way where it's like 3 emojis in the title of your YouTube video in all caps with someone going on the screenshot. But like what he does, I think he does so with care and attention for the people who are making the games. Because I think a leak can often just remove all of those elements. A leak is there to just say, hey, here's a thing. Here's what's happening, period. And it removes that part of like, there's people who've worked to keep this a secret for so long, who've probably wanted to go home and tell people about it, their friends have said, dude, you work at that Nintendo. Are you guys making a new Metroid? And he can't say anything. She can't say anything because you can't let anybody know about a new Metroid. And if that Metroid Dread had been leaked, right, like how much of that like secrets and all that stuff like just gets, I think, nullified. So I think Jeff Grubb does a really good job of like sharing those things that are leaks without really breaking things open. So like instead of just spilling everything that he knows, he gives you enough to get excited without painting the entire picture. He still lets the company or whoever paint that picture. And I saw that come to fruition with that Marvel game from Firaxis a couple weeks back. I think it was in like June or something. He started talking about that. He was like, hey, Firaxis is going to make basically an XCOM game with Marvel characters. And his framing, the way he like talked about that game is that the Doctor Strange stuff and the multiverse, and I think he talked about Loki because I guess Loki kicked off multiverse stuff. Is that right? You watched that one, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he talked about it in the frame that the Loki stuff kicked off multiverse stuff. And that is kind of the angle that now they're able to take with the show. Just like DC's doing with the Flash stuff and all that, where like they let all of these things exist and their reason for it is multiverse, yo. So multiverse, yo, Marvel's, what is it? Golden Suns? Super Saiyans?
I think it's Midnight Suns.
Yes, okay. Midnight Suns. I think that's, yes. The example he gave was that they're going to make a game that's this, and the reason they're able to do it and keep it standalone from the movies is multiverse, and they're going to make it, he kind of like put it in that frame. So in my head, I've got no image of what I think it is. I'm picturing XCOM with Spider-Man standing on a thing. And then when they actually showed the game, completely different than what he had, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't fully like spelled out like I think some games can be spelled out in a way. So I appreciate how he approaches that week over week. Like, I don't know. There's been like a lot of stuff around Quake that he's talked about lately and things like that, that like I'm excited for Quake, and he probably knows a little bit more than he's letting on, but like we don't have a thing that just says like id's making Quake, it's coming out in 2023, it's going to do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like that fact sheet that so often gets jumped out that.
And like my favorite part about that type of stuff, because with people like us who are, you know, like enthusiasts, and we kind of have our ear close to the ground with the industry as much as we can anyway. You know, we're obviously more prone to having things spoiled and things leaked and whatnot. But then I feel like it kind of becomes like a pretty bad game of password if you're not in that circle. So it's like, you know, like one of us might have the correct information. We tell somebody who's like not as like in the know, and then they'll tell someone, and then all of a sudden like it gets to like a weird shitty Facebook post that somebody found with all this misinformation about it, and people blow that out of proportion and take that as fact.
Yeah. Because I think that we generally like we want to know, okay, what exactly is it? But yeah, there's like this seems like a lifetime ago. Just sorry, I'd like to do a weird reflection on you know, where we've been the last almost 2 years now, but like just those moments where you'd be in a Best Buy or something in the game section and you'd hear someone talking about stuff and they're just completely wrong or whatever, and like now that it's just called like Twitter replies, but I think that whole like era of or not era, but that whole like it's that bad game of telephone. It's someone like who heard a thing from some password. No, I think it's the same thing. But I think there's that thing where it's like, well, I heard this, and it's like, who'd you hear that from? Well, my friend. Well, your friend was misinformed, and so are you, and you're wrong, and yeah. But I think that also kind of dovetails nicely into what happened this week. That PlayStation thing happened, and we were kind of talking in the wake of it more about marketing and like just where marketing is for video games and our engagement with it, and I think that I don't know. This one's a weird conversation. Like, I don't know how I want to frame this one up, but I know that in my RSS feed, I have seen the words Metroid Dread and trailer like 1,000 times this week. And it just seems like there's more and more and more about that game. And I don't know why I'm upset at seeing so much Metroid Dread, because we went for literal years without Nintendo ever saying the word Metroid. So I should be happy. I should be grateful that there's all this Metroid stuff that people, I don't even know if people are excited, but Nintendo seems excited. And I think that's good, right? But then I'm seeing Metroid Dread. I'm seeing the story trailer, a 4.5-minute story trailer, where I feel like the story trailer we got at E3 was already way too much and revealed way too much. But I don't know, like, do you think, to kind of kick from Metroid Dread, like, do people benefit from having a ton of promotion for a game? Like, is it oversaturation?
I feel like they're trying to make up for lost time in a way. And I guess since they don't have a lot of other games to really push, I guess they're just putting all their focus into this. Because if I recall, like on their YouTube channel, like they were posting more than just trailers. There was some like, I don't want to say retrospective, but like,
no, yeah,
there was like stuff like that as well. And it's like somebody at Nintendo like told somebody like, all right, we need to have a quota of like post something like once a week or something like that, because we're getting closer and closer to the release. And They I guess don't know how else to market it. But
but that coupled with the fact that we're at the 35th anniversary of Metroid, like that makes sense. And if you spin that all up in a way where in a week or two you announce, hey, Game Boy and Game Boy Color games are coming to Switch, one of the first ones you'll be able to play is Metroid 2, so you can see the story that led to what, you know what I mean? Like obviously you're not going to be able to play Fusion unless they do play Game Boy Advance, but there's been no word of that. But hey, you get to play the stuff that led Samus to where she is in Metroid Dread.
Right.
And then you can look back at, because they've been doing these little like series retrospectives, because I think the Switch also is, it's a return to the Wii in a way, but like if you look at like where we are now versus where the human race was culturally, where the Wii was, like the Wii and that whole like blue ocean strategy and let's get everybody playing games totally worked, and everybody plays games all the time. Whether it's on their phone, whether it's on their computer, whether it's in, their work chat, like everyone has a way to play a game on anything that they've ever looked at ever. And they're doing that. And then we see with the Switch, you see a lot of those people who maybe the Wii went under a shelf, maybe they're back in, especially after last year, we saw like super uptick in people buying Switch for Animal Crossing and more. And then you've got this, like, there's another generation of folks who are all of an age with disposable income, and they're all buying the Switch now too. But there's this pocket of people who've never heard of Metroid, right? So I see the value in, like, we have a lot of like first time Nintendo owners with the Switch. We should make sure they know what Metroid is. So I can see those elements of it for sure. It just seems like, yo, you guys are showing all of this game. Like, it's like watching a trailer for a movie now where, why am I going to see the movie? Why am I watching and then, like, I think what I realized this week is I just don't like marketing anymore. I don't like modern day marketing.
Yeah, I don't like it when it's phoned in. Like,
just too much. Like, like, I feel like by the time you go to see most movies now, you know the basic plot of everything. So you're just waiting on, like, those 5 or 6 little surprises that happen, and then the one guy to do the one thing with his shield, and then everybody goes, duh.
Yeah, like I was trying to think like where this all kind of like started, because like it's definitely different. Like marketing from like the 90s versus like early 2000s, completely different. Like I feel like a lot of the 90s focused on like stuff outside of the game. Like it'd be like two people just interacting in a house or something, right? And then they would show some gameplay like really quick, like a little sizzle, whatever. And then game logo, done. And then it would be the same commercial premise, but the live action part would be different. It'd be a completely different scenario, still show the same exact gameplay clip, followed by title. That's it.
Because they had to make a spot that went to MTV. They had to make a different spot that went to Cartoon Network. Right? They had to do
But, like, the creativity went outside of the gameplay. Yeah. They still had the same 10-second gameplay clip. It never changed. Just everything around it changed.
Yeah.
And, like...
Because it was more about selling a lifestyle at that point, too, right? Like...
Right.
And I think for better and for worse. Like, there were a lot of bad things about where video games were back then. We were the target demographic, and then they only put like young boys in a lot of that. You know what I mean? Like it was just like so much of that. Not all of them. I don't want to throw everybody under the bus, but
no. Yeah. But I kind of like that approach to it because it doesn't show any more of the game than what it is, and it kind of distracts you, but also entertains you, and like kind of gets your brain thinking in a different way about it too. And then by the time like early 2000s came around, like 360 PS3 time, E3 it was getting huge, and everything was like, cinematic was just such a spectacle because we never really had that type of treatment with a game before. So we were just like in awe with like this nice visual thing going on. It didn't matter if it wasn't gameplay. And so they realized, hey, this works. Let's just keep doing this. So like to have people to chew on this until we actually have a game done. But now it's just like oversaturated and just it's not amazing anymore. Now it's like everything's just trying to be a movie trailer or trying to be too cinematic, and it's like you're leaving nothing to the imagination anymore. Unless some have done a pretty good job, like the Halo campaigns for like 3 and ODST, like all those live action things that are just lore and world building has nothing to do with the game. But like it gets you hyped still for it and it gets you thinking about it. So like you can be creative about it and be cinematic and be okay with it. Or you can just do like a Gears of War thing and everybody just that feels phoned in now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't know. I mean, fashion and trends, like they swing back. Like Billie Eilish looks like a Backstreet Boy. So I think like you might see some of those things coming back. You know what I mean? Maybe the pendulum shifts the other way. So maybe we do start to get a little less, I'd hope. I don't know. We're already seeing this shift in, not for all games by any stretch, but we had this thing where like for the longest time, you'd get a snippet of something, typically from Japan, that they already had that we didn't get yet, where you would get a few screenshots and a blurb of text and somebody sensationalizing whatever the thing was, and you know your hype can grow from there. Yeah. And then we do get to the point where we're getting TV spots and things like that, and then it kind of like grew and grew, and then the more tapped in we got, the more that it's like you kind of know everything, right? Like you know that as soon as a studio ships its game, they're already months into production on another game or pre-production or something. And then you know timeline-wise how long it takes to make a game. You know what else the publisher of that developer is making and how that ties into their calendar. And now we're like way too tapped into all of this crap. So you kind of have all these expectations, but there's this thing where like you can be completely surprised. Like I think Mortal Kombat 11 was a great example of, hey, I'm Ed Boon. You know me from that Mortal Kombat thing. Let's talk about video game awards. Wait a second. What's happening? Mortal Kombat 11's happening in 5 months. Did you know we were making that? Of course you did. Did you see any of it until today? Of course you didn't. See you in April. Like that's all it was. It was all it had to be too.
Yeah.
And like there's been more of that too. Like what? Metroid Dread was June and we get it in October.
Yeah.
Where like Other M, how long did I'm trying to think of the last like big Metroid game? Well, I guess Metroid Returns on 3DS, but even that was a short turnaround time. But like any of those older ones, like Prime, in that era of like, you know, the early days of marketing, like Prime was very much, let's show it off at the beginning of the GameCube and whoa, look at this crazy thing that we're doing with Metroid. And then you see it a year later before it comes out, and by that point you get all the, you know, whatever, that whole train of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate the shorter tail to things. I think that, you know, this probably ends up stretching into a conversation we'll have next week about Final Fantasy 15, but I think that there's stuff where we should see some, but not all. And, you know, I think that we had a good conversation offline about, I guess we were online technically, but we weren't on air. But we were talking about like, you know, when should you have a playable demo? When should you show something that's not playable? All of those things, like, you know, I think there's something to that effect too. Like showing something that people can't play, you know, it's tough because then you're only imagining, and games are very much an interactive experience that are only as good as you feel while you're playing it, right? I think something to go along with like the marketing and the playing piece that came out this week is that Square Enix announced results of the Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin demo survey. So they surveyed people who played the game, and the results of the survey, that 70% of players who participated in the demo and I guess also contributed to this survey were satisfied with their experience. So I remember the consensus around that game being pretty negatively toned, you know, just kind of wholly after that was shown off. And then you had a lot of people who just kept saying chaos because they thought they were funny. For comparison to the 70% of players, 90% of players who were surveyed after playing Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier closed beta said they were satisfied or very satisfied. So, you know, it's I was just trying to look for like, has Square done another survey and actually received results that, whatever, where people liked or did not like or anything like that. And I think that like, I don't know, there's something there where like giving people hands on with something lets them know exactly what it is. Because the image they showed of that game in the trailer was like the worst of Nomura, right? Like,
yeah.
And it did not look good. Like I was super excited for that game again from the leak of it prior to E3. My hype for it like tremendously escalated, and then we see it and I was just like completely deflated because of what it ended up being. I didn't play it because I think the demo was only PS5 or PS4, PS5 maybe, but I'm not turning on PS4 anymore. I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Who does?
And yeah, so I didn't check it out, but like I'm still excited for that. Even after that whole thing and like I was deflated. I'm still planning on buying it even without playing that thing. But this shows something that like if you polled people on Twitter or whatever, the YouTube comments section after that thing came out, like actually I probably should have looked at the actual trailer to see like the thumbs up, thumbs down percentage, right? But like I'm sure that it's more negatively skewed than 70%, right? But 70% of people who did play it enjoyed their time with it. So I don't know, like I think that was bad marketing at the onset, but people played it and it I think better showcases the game. And then like you mentioned, the word of mouth part is a lot of what still sells games. Like people buy games because their friends are playing them or they're recommended to them by somebody or they want to be part of some club. So if people are playing this and liking this and talking about it, I think that helps. But have you ever found yourself like swung back from a game because you finally got your hands on it? Or like, can you think of an example of a game you were like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. And then you played it and you're like, no, I'm good. This is very good. I love this game.
Sonic Colors.
Yeah. It's a really, yeah.
I just couldn't stand the marketing of that because I worked at GameStop. So it's like, you're just surrounded by that. You couldn't escape it. So I was forced to listen to the same damn song over and over and over. And I was just like, and then it being on the Wii, I just didn't take the Wii seriously at the time. I was just like, I want nothing to do with this. Just stop, please, just stop. and then finally, when this one came around, I grew up a little bit and be a little more open-minded, and they also improved it. So
sure,
also more enticing. But yeah, like I thought I would have never touched that game. There's still a game I haven't touched yet, and I don't know if I ever will. Not because I really hate it, but it is because of the noise around it. But Skyrim.
You've never played that?
Never played it.
Wow.
Like my experience with Elder Scrolls is very limited, and like I did a teeny bit of Morrowind. Didn't really get past the character creator in Oblivion because everyone looks awful, and didn't touch Skyrim. Now, I was excited for Skyrim. I liked the first trailer, but then everybody kept liking it, even after the fact. And then arrow to the knee thing happened. They don't even know what it means. And then it kept getting re-released. I was like, everyone's just loving Skyrim, and it just made me not want to play it. But I think I could see myself playing it eventually. Right now, I just feel like I came so far with like being proud of like not touching it. It's like, how far can I keep this going?
I did that for like 20 something years with Star Wars. Like I saw episode 1 at the drive-in when it came out. Didn't care for it. And remember my I don't know if I've told this on the air or not, but my experience with Star Wars was tainted from a first grade birthday party where we went. It was meant to be a sleepover where we were hanging out, playing games and whatever. And I remember playing video games and having a fun time. And then it was time to stop the games and watch the boys' favorite movie, which was called Star Wars. And we put it on, and I think someone tried to act out one of the fights, and people were quoting the movie because they had also seen it and loved Star Wars. And the host was very upset that people were not sitting in complete silence and watching the movie. and kind of had a little temper tantrum about it. So that ruined my engagement or interest in Star Wars entirely. I remember we all ended up calling our parents to leave early that night because he was like not being very sick, being still 5. Didn't you turn 6? I mean, come on. What are you doing, right? Maybe 7. But he was acting like a 6-year-old. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Grow up. And yeah, we all went home. And then every time I thought of Star Wars or someone talked about watching it, I remembered that experience and said that movie was boring and that kid wasn't fun. So I don't think I want to be like him. So I didn't watch any of them. And then it like you, it became a thing where it was like, yeah, I've never seen them and I don't want to see them. Like I like more that I've gone this far without seeing them. And then I sat down and watched 4, 5, and 6, and they were fine. They were, Star Wars movies.
Yeah, like I was big into Star Wars, as a kid, but now I'm just kind of like, nah. I've had my share. I've had my fill. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to chase that dragon.
Yeah, but you are trying to chase that Skyrim dragon.
We'll see. To be determined. But
do you think you'd be more inclined to go back to Skyrim if you could still shout at your Kinect the voice commands to do the Fusrada?
See, stuff? I'm not sure because it's like I like to try like a little more unconventional ways to play a game sometimes. And with that game, I would love to do a pacifist run. But like you have to kill, like you have I know there's bosses you have to, you know, so like aside from that, I think it'd probably be very tough, but I've always wanted to play a game where you're just kind of like you're just basically like a monk almost, where you know, you can hurt people, but you don't want to kill them. And I don't think games like that really allow for people to be like incapped or like, you know, temporarily injured or something. Like there's no like tranquilizer equivalent, you know, like if you're Solid Snake in Metal Gear or something.
Dude, if it's a real RPG, it should, right?
I don't know.
I'm curious if they do have that. If not, they should do that for 6 in a couple of decades when they put it out. That I
almost tried VR. I that was going to be my first one. I almost considered it, but then I heard that like it's not really that great for like melee, but it's cool for magic, I guess, because you can have 2 different spells going on and just kind of shoot beams around. It's like, I'm not typically a magic user, but I guess I could give it a shot. I don't know.
So too much marketing is bad, from what I can tell.
Also, that it makes you weary. It makes you feel like the game is going to be bad.
Right. Why are you talking about this so much?
Right.
Who are you trying to convince, me or you?
It's like you're just trying to milk it and get as much money out of it as you can before running away and never coming back to it. And
yeah, it's a good point.
Whenever games are painted on the side of a building, I'm worried.
Yeah, that's typically a bad sign. When is a good trailer?
When? Like, are we talking like full trailer or like teasers? Does that include teasers?
Oh man, but let's dive into the timeline. Okay, so let's think of a made up game that doesn't exist.
Okay.
That you would be incredibly hyped for.
Okay.
When do you want to hear about it? So it's gonna release in December 2022. When do you want to first hear about it?
I want to first hear about it. Like I would take a teaser a year before, and then a trailer at least half a year before the game's release.
Okay, so teaser. What defines teaser? Like the Smash Brothers Ultimate thing we got in March that year?
I mean, it can be a cinematic if you want. That's probably usually the way to go, but even if it's not that, even if it's just like a logo or if it's just like an article or something, because I would count that a little bit.
What about an interview with one of its creators who says, "Oh yeah, we're working on this game called Kirby's Air Ride 2."
I think that would not be as memorable in my head right away, probably, but I would definitely be like, oh yeah, I remember reading that article. And it's just like, cool.
But officially 1 year out, you want your first inkling of it. Prior to that, don't say anything, don't tell me anything.
Like, that would be ideal. Actually, Shadow Drop would be ideal. They just talk about it and then boom, here it is. But if you're to give me a time frame, a year would be the sweet spot, but I would even accept maybe 2 to 3 at most. Anything after that is just like, good luck trying to keep me invested in this. Because I'm probably going to be sick of it by the time.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the last game that I like kind of turned on before launch. I feel like there's definitely been a thing where like I was, yeah, I'm in, and then like there's just too much of it, and I'm like, I'll wait till it goes on sale or something.
Yeah.
Actually, Final Fantasy VII was that. So here's an interesting turn. Final Fantasy VII Remake was exactly that. They announced it like, what, 22 years ago? I was excited about it, having never played the original all the way through. And then we see a little bit more of it. I'm excited about it. I think like that first like thing they showed, what, 2015 or something. When we knew at that point, it was like, I forget the name of the studio who was working on it. It wasn't CyberConnect 2, but it was something with a name like that. They were working on it, and then of course it got brought back into Square proper, and they started development basically over from the beginning. And then we see it again, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. And they show that gameplay trailer at E3, and I'm still in, very excited. And then we got super close to it, and I was like, no, I don't care. I'm out. Like, I actively, like, I remember I was, like, saving money for it, and I just moved that money into, I don't know, Doom or Animal Crossing or something, Resident Evil 3, like, something else that I wanted last year instead. And then the Final Fantasy VII demo dropped. Shoot, I might be totally wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering. In my head, I played the demo, and then I fell in love with it. I think that was what happened. That's the story that's in my head. We can go back and we can find out by listening to old podcasts whether I played it and hated it or not. But in my head, I remember playing the demo, and that's what brought me back in, because I kind of got over the hype. And then playing that demo, I was like, I'm in. Or maybe, no, I'm wrong. Sorry, totally wrong. I'm remembering now. I played the demo, and then I was like, okay, what more could they do? I think that's where I landed on that. Anyway, bad example. Just like, delete this whole part of the podcast.
Well, I mean, the example you're trying to go for was the demo was the selling point?
Yeah, because I think that's what it is like, once I got my hands on it, because then the rest of it, it's all like, you're seeing everything, and then they can hype it too much for you to the point where like, okay, well, I just want to play the thing. Why are you still showing me more before I can play it? I think that's kind of the idea that turned me off of something like that. And then playing it, or at least in my head, playing it is what made me excited about it again.
Yeah, I have a question. Because I feel like a lot of this might deal with games with a heavy narrative that we're so like concerned about. But what if it's just like an arcade game? How much is okay to show?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because like
we should stop putting story in games. Just let's play games, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay if you have it, right? But like, for the more like less cinematic, more just gets right to the point, kind of games. Like in my head, I'm thinking something like a shoot 'em up right now, right?
Yeah.
And you see that, and it's like, okay, those trailers, they all kind of blur together anyway, because it's only one point of view with the camera usually, and there's just only so many ways a bullet can go. So it's like, do you want to see all the power-ups in a trailer? And even if you do, are you going to remember all those power-ups that you saw in a trailer? Probably not. Are you going to remember every level that the ships were flying in? You might remember that one boss, maybe. Or you might remember the anime girl that's in the ship or something, But
even still, like, when you get your hands on it, it feels completely different than what you imagine, and you have to, like, learn how to play that game. So I think that's a big difference. Yeah, that's a really good call-out. Like, something like that, I think you could show the entire game in a trailer, and it would be fine. where I think like WarioWare, I played through the story of that this week, and I don't like WarioWare. Like, I didn't want to see anything from WarioWare as we got closer to its release, because I feel like the fun of WarioWare, if you did show any of those games, because they are micro games that happen so quickly, and they're just like this tiny little taste of what a bigger idea, right? Like, it's just a single game mechanic boiled down into a 3-second mini game, micro game, whatever. I think if you show those, that spoils it, right? Because then you know, or if you see, especially if you watch someone play it, right? Like, as there's so many, I think even Nintendo itself put out one of their Nintendo Minute videos with Kit and Krista playing through a whole bunch of WarioWare together. And like, watching that, right? Like, that itself, like, you see them struggle with what the puzzle of the game is. And even though it's just such a small puzzle, it's like, you know how it is with WarioWare. Like, you get to one you haven't done before and you're like, what do I do? Oh, okay, cool. And either you get it in time or you don't, but either way, the second time you play through that game, you know what to do. You know, this game's a little different because you're jumping between the different characters themselves in the roster, and then so like, some of them can only move vertically, some of them can only shoot horizontally, those types of things. And I think that's the part where, like, this becomes different, and or that's the challenge, or the thing that makes it replayable.
Yeah, I mean,
it with different characters,
especially if you're in the know of that series. You know, I think you really want to save the more like comedic or juicier parts for when you actually are playing it and not watching it. So yeah, I mean, like, I guess it's a case by case thing.
I guess that too, like, WarioWare is such an established franchise. At this point, you can literally do what they did and say, hey, there's a WarioWare out in September, and that's all I need to know. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's weird. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution for video game marketing, but I think that there are things that work well for certain types of games.
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb, though, would be, like, if you are showing off your game, I would say maybe show off what's only in, like, the first third of your game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's enough to get across what kind of game it is without, if it spoils anything, then it's only like the beginning. You don't know the rest of it. So there's a reason to keep going.
I will emphasize, like, the ability. I know that it takes more time to carve out a section to play, but, like, let me play it, dude. Like, looking ahead at some of the stuff that's coming up this fall that I'm excited about, like, the ones that I'm excited about and know I'm going to buy, period. Metroid, done. Easy. What else is out this fall? I already forgot. I mean, I'm not buying Halo because Game Pass, but you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. Like, I already know what I will buy, but the ones I'm on the fence about, like those, the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, I think look awful. I do not like the art style of them at all. I don't like what they're doing with it, but, like, you know, I've been going through this thing now where I kind of want to play those, and I think it would be fun to revisit, and I think it would be neat to collect those Pokemon again and put them in Pokemon Home and get ready for whatever else. Whatever. Pokemon games are what they are, but I think it looks awful. And imagining playing it, I don't want to play it.
No.
But if they just put out a demo that let me run through, do the opening bit where I meet Professor X and then collect the first Pokemon, like, let me do that part and see that, like, the art style is not so bad in motion. I think that maybe, right, you could sell me that game a little bit easier. I can't think of another example, but yeah, any of those where I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll play it. Like, yeah, demos are important. Like WarioWare, I think if people didn't get it, there is a demo and they can try it out and see if they like it or not. Where, like, I knew, I'm in, I'm done, bought it, and I'm completely satisfied with it. But, like, Nier Automata, currently sitting at the top of our list, Matt just pointed out that, like, none of us would have played Nier Automata had it not been for that demo. But that demo came out and it was enough of, like, getting some buzz, like, hey, this game's weird and fun and different and you should play it. And then playing the demo was like, oh, I want more of whatever they're doing. Because, yeah, I think it introduced the game mechanics well enough, it introduced a little bit of that world well enough, and then it cut you off right when you want more. And that's, I think, a great example
And I don't remember many trailers either. Like,
No, not at all.
there was like the one tease of like art, and then I don't remember an actual game trailer after that.
No, not one bit. Like, yeah, we could have another. We could keep going and talk about how you go too far in the wrong direction and you don't sell any copies of Earthbound and they're discounted for $10 at Kmart because you picked the wrong part of the marketing campaign to get behind. But yeah, I think we kind of jokingly but not came up with a list in a text thread of what appropriate marketing is. I think we should save that for next week. We'll flesh it out officially, give it the old thefreecheese.com stamp of approval. And we'll share out what our official here's your guideline to marketing by 3 people who are not in marketing at all. Because that's the other thing too, is like, this is what works for us, but I don't think they care about us. I think that's the other side of it too, is we're too old and we're not part of the demographic.
Well,
I think,
yeah, I mean, I think we're on like, I think we're still in the demographic. We're getting closer to the other side of it.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, when you go on those websites and you're like, oh, pick your age range. It's like, okay.
Yeah, we're about to have to click a new button. We're getting close to that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think as games shift and games, I've already seen it. Like, there's some, like, I saw an indie game. Somebody was sharing like progress on what they were making. And, you know, looking for feedback, like, hey, can you guys tell me about my game? And all of the characters, they weren't one-to-one recreations, but like they had the same little kind of like silhouette shape of the character models as the main characters from Among Us. And like the game had nothing to do with that. It was not a clone or in any way, but like you could just see how stuff like that, and like, you know, I think seeing that made me think like, oh yeah, there's going to be so like a whole generation, the same way that now crafting is in everything because of Minecraft.
Yeah.
You know, like what's next to happen with, yeah. I know one thing that's next to happen. It's a bad segue into a break. But when we get back from the break, we've got quite the surprise to talk about. Quite the surprise. We'll be back in just a minute after this. For additional comparison real quick, I looked into some other Square Enix surveys, and another survey revealed that 65% of players used the stairs to reach the 59th floor of the Shinra building in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Mark, have you climbed any stairs this week? Have you made your way out into the public?
You know, I have to do my outing once in a while just to get some sun, whatever. But this week's been a little different. I don't know, it's just everything just feels different. I just, you know, was on my way to my car, and there was this elderly woman. Like, she seemed lost but okay with it. Does that make sense? Like, a true wanderer kind of thing. But like, I know she was like walking away from my car or whatever, and I was like, it's a little suspicious. Maybe like she dropped something, or maybe she thought it was her car because.
Is she like too close to your car for comfort kind of thing, where you're like, were you messing with something, or?
Yeah, like there was just something just didn't feel right. And then, you know, I looked, and there was this little like pamphlet on the front on my windshield. And I'm like, all right, whatever. This happened before, like, you know, be at a Target and somebody puts like their Avon business card or something like in your on your windshield or something like that. So I thought it was another one of those.
Etsy.com.
Right, but like this didn't have like any like real writing on the front. It was just a picture of a cookie. So maybe she bakes cookies. Maybe this, I don't know. Maybe she was just trying to start up a business. But
something on the back? Did she have a shirt that said anything?
Didn't get a good look at her clothing attire, but I did just go through the pamphlet because curiosity, and it took me to this website. And then through the website, it was teaching me all about Cookie Clicker. Have you heard of Cookie Clicker?
In passing, I think a long time ago, I heard someone at a nearby table in Don Pablo's, discussing it, but never. I thought it was made up. I didn't know it was a real thing.
It's Joe. It is beyond a real thing.
Cookie Clicker is a 21st century religion. It comprises a vast body of knowledge extending from certain fundamental truths. And prime among those truths, humans are spiritual beings endowed with abilities well beyond those which we normally envision. We are not only able to solve our own problems, accomplish our goals, and gain lasting happiness, but we can achieve new states of awareness we may never have dreamed possible. In one form or another, all great religions have held the hope of spiritual freedom, a condition free of material limitations and misery. The question has always been, however, how does one reach such a state, particularly while still living amidst a frantic and often overwhelming society? Although modern life seems to pose an infinitely complex array of problems, Cookie Clicker maintains that the solutions to those problems are basically simple and within every person's reach. Difficulties with communication and interpersonal relationships, nagging insecurities, self-doubt, and despair. Each person innately possesses the potential to be free of these and many other concerns. Cookie Clicker offers a pathway to greater freedom. Developed by Julian Diano, also known as Octale, Cookie Clicker is a religion that offers a precise path leading to a complete and certain understanding of one's true spiritual nature and one's relationship to self, family, groups, humankind, all life forms, the material universe, the spiritual universe, and the cookie we call the Supreme Being. Cookie Clicker addresses the spirit, not the body or mind, and believes that humans are far more than a product of their environment or their genes. As stated earlier, Cookie Clicker comprises a body of knowledge which extends from certain fundamental truths. Prime among these are: humans are immortal spiritual beings. Our experience extends well beyond a single lifetime. Our capabilities are unlimited, even if not presently realized. Cookie Clicker further holds humans to be basically good, and that our spiritual salvation depends upon ourselves, our fellows, and our attainment of oneness with the universe. Cookie Clicker is not a dogmatic religion in which one is asked to accept anything on faith alone. On the contrary, one discovers for oneself that the principles of Cookie Clicker are true by applying its principles and observing, or experiencing the results. The non-believers will tell you that Cookie Clicker is centered around the pursuit and accumulation of vast wealth, providing players with the illusion of progress without any substantial advancement actually being made. In actuality, the ultimate goal of Cookie Clicker is true spiritual enlightenment and freedom for all.
So I feel like I'd been losing hope in humanity, and I think that there's been a general I don't know if I'm pronouncing the word correctly, but uh, things are generally ominous, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I do suddenly feel like change could be happening, right? And there's a shift there's some sort of paradigm shift happening, and maybe that is the aforementioned swing of the pendulum back a different direction. But I feel like things maybe just recently, in the most recent, feel like they could be headed in a more positive direction. I don't know why I get that overwhelming sensation.
I think I know the answer to that. And I think it's because of the Supreme Being.
Oh, well, you didn't tell me about the Supreme Being.
The almighty cookie.
What kind of cookie are we talking here?
So, with Cookie Clicker, the whole point is to click that cookie. And in return, you are blessed.
Sure.
You get blessed with cookies the more you click on the cookie. And it's pretty much, it's just basically that, but there's a little more to it, because you get help. You're not alone. You're never alone in Cookie Clicker. So cookies are...
How long do you feel like it's been since you've been touched by the divine presence?
As of this recording,
yes,
I would say for about 18 hours.
Okay, all right. And you already feel it, so I can only imagine how strong this bond will grow in time.
I mean, Cookie Clicker is life. The cookies are a currency. Cookies are also what you harvest. So you hire grandmas, and they are your workers for everything. They are the ones who will bake the cookies. And but then you're asking, all right, well, it's just in an oven, right? It's not that hard. But what if I told you that there's a farm for cookies? What if I told you that they grow out of the ground and you plant cookie seeds? And then that's how you get those cookies.
Sure.
What if I told you that cookies also come from mines? They come from you can mine for these as well.
I would believe that, yeah. Because I don't know where cookies come from. So I know
mean,
that you can get them. Obviously, I know you can buy them in boxes in a store, and I know that people have made cookie mix. But where does that come from? Right?
They come from so many places. So you got your grandma's, your farm, your mine, your factory, the bank. Mm-hmm. They produce cookies.
Of course they do.
Because you got to remember, it's not just a delicacy. It's not just a food. It's also a currency, as well as a way of life.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like all things that is kind of more than a way of life. People live and die by money and by power and greed that's driven by that money. But I think the same thing, bartering and things like that, and just basic human interaction with a single, there's a connective thread there. And I think that from what you're describing, that connective thread could be cookies.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And then it's so much that they've built temples to worship said cookie or cookies. And then through there we even have wizards in towers looking over the lands far and wide. And then you're thinking, well, wow, cookies are coming from so many places. Where else could they go? What if I told you that they're in space? There are cookie life forms out there.
Do you think the cookie was created in the image of those life forms and brought here? Is this an interstellar sort of experience? Is this something brought onto us from the heavens?
Either the heavens or a portal of some kind or some other faraway galaxy. That is still to be discovered in this lifelong journey. So I can't give all the answers. Some of it you have to seek for yourself. But with this dumb clicking idle game, yeah, I'd never played this before. I remember it came out in like 2013, 2014 or something.
Yeah.
I had some friends obsessed with it. I'd see it on their internet browser, just running in the background, just seeing a bunch of hand mouse cursors all in a circle rotating, constantly poking this cookie as milk is rising from the bottom. I'm like, What the hell is this? Why is there all this shit? And then they released the Steam version. It's like $5. I told a friend about it as a joke, and she ended up buying it and got addicted. I'm like, should I be playing this? And then I pulled the trigger, and here I am 18 hours later. And there's some things I'm questioning about this. So you saw a little bit of it, but you pretty much saw the whole thing because it's an idle game. It doesn't go anywhere. So you saw the screen, but as the more sources of ways to get cookies you unlock, the more those cost as you go down.
Mm-hmm.
They cost more cookies to make. So now I'm in like the millions and billions of how much it costs to produce anything. And then you have to, you can get upgrades for each thing. Like, you can upgrade the grandmas, you can upgrade the farm, you can upgrade the mine, and all of them to produce more cookies. The thing about the grandmas is that the more you upgrade them, the more they start developing more uniforms, because they are working at each of these places. You have your farmer grandmas, you have your miner grandmas, you have your factory grandmas, you have your bank grandmas, you have your grandmas that worship at the temple, you have your wizard grandmas. And I assume they're space grandmas. I just didn't get that far yet.
Yeah.
But I went to the options of this game, and I'm very curious about something. There is an option to turn on or off something called scary stuff.
Oh.
It's on by default. I did peek a little into it, but I saw a little too far that I probably shouldn't have, so I'm trying to like savor it.
Oh.
But I still don't know fully what it is.
Oh, so this goes places.
And like the only hint I might have related to it, because I bought the soundtrack, and for people that don't know, C418, who composed the Minecraft music, did the music for this. And as you probably heard in that nice little advertisement. So like it's very peaceful, but in the soundtrack listing, in the track names, there's one track. I didn't play it because I didn't want to get spoiled. It's called Grandma Apocalypse.
Oh, that's okay.
I have no idea what that means, or what.
That my imagination wanders on that one. I don't know, but yeah, that sounds like it can go somewhere quickly.
Yeah.
Is this your first clicker game?
This is, I think it might be my first clicker game, but the whole time that I'm playing this, it was just like, it felt like I joined a cult for real. And it's just like, between me and my friend, we were just talking about it, and the way we're talking about it, we felt like members of like a hidden society. We were in the know with all this stuff, and it's like, oh, how many grandmas you got? Like how, like how many cookies? Like what's your milk level at? Because milk is slowly rising as you're getting more achievements. There's over 500 achievements, by the way, if you want to be a completionist. Oh my god! At first, it was just like low level white milk, but now it's like almost halfway up the screen, and now it's chocolate milk. I don't know what's going to turn into after that. And guess what? On top of all that, each individual thing on here says level 0.
Huh.
And I can upgrade it with a sugar lump.
Do you have sugar lumps yet?
No, because in order to get one sugar lump right now, it what it say? It would take like a day or like more than a day or something like that to get just one. So that and you can also you can prestige in this.
Oh God.
So
and I guess you have to if you want to get certain things, right?
Right. So I need 912 billion more cookies in order to ascend. I don't know what that means either.
And how many cookies are you at now?
Well,
you crossed the billion mark.
Let's see. Yeah, because like I spent a lot of cookies as this has been going on.
No, yeah, of course.
But total, if I'm reading that correctly, I am not reading that correctly. Cookies baked all time, 87.41 billion.
Okay. So you need to get. Does your total need to have an additional 9, or your current like bankroll needs to be an additional 9 billion before you can ascend?
Yeah, like I'm seeing it counting down in real time, but I need an additional 912 billion more cookies in order to ascend.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
it was 912 billion.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one that I played was Candy Box 2. And Candy Box, I didn't until I had like gotten my fill of it. Actually, we ended up beating it one day, but the one time that I had like kind of got my fill of it, I realized you could open the developer tools in the browser and just get wild and just make changes to what you wanted to change and have fun with it that way. But yeah, I feel like you very scarily may be on the cusp of a whole new world of what we would consider trademark games, because there are some clickers out there, my friend. I tell you, like,
yeah,
Cookie Clicker was the start, but there have been I gotta find the one that I think is really fully something you'd be into. I'll figure it out and send it to you, or maybe I should make sure that we block that from your search results from ever appearing.
Yeah, but this did lead me to some questions, like kind of jokingly, but like kind of not. But like, because of this like cult like approach that this game has on me, like, and kind of joking with it, it reminded me of other games that led to this question. But like, what game or games have you let into your life only to gain enlightenment from? And like, and has it changed the way you perceive the world around you? Like, because of a video game, do you see things differently? Do you see it you see it differently because of that game? Like, you only think of that game now when you see certain things or hear certain things or whatever's in your life?
Yes. Nier Automata. That is one where there is a clear before and after, like, that's one of those nodes on the timeline of my life that is like, that's one that gets marked. Like, there's definitely a thing where, like, yeah, there's things about that game and my experience with it that then like changed perspective on interactions, small and big, and humanity, and I think it did a lot of those things really, really well in a way that like just made me, and maybe it coincided with just me already kind of going in that direction mentally, but just changed the way I was thinking about certain things and approaching, I don't know, personal philosophies and things like that. I think that's, when you ask that question, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think there's probably some other answers that are a bit less heavy, but I think that's an easy one that I'm like, yep, that's the one.
Yeah, and like, even if it's not like fully the game itself, but maybe it was like stuff you were already on board with, or maybe you're already thinking about, but the game just was able to either validate it or present it in a way that was just like, it finally clicked and made sense. Like, yes, that's what I was thinking about, or that's what I was looking for. I just didn't have a way to like fully like I don't know,
articulate it.
Yeah.
As
I failed to articulate it.
I like the irony there. Yeah, I think in a different and more recent way, playing some shoot 'em up games, I like never got them before. Like I didn't get Gradius until I got Parodius, like way later. And then once I got Parodius, I still feel like I didn't really get it until I got really good at some other shoot 'em up games. And then I could go back and fold them into things, and like that changed my approach to just playing games in general, because I think there is a realization, like we talked about earlier, where like you can see a shooter game and you see it's very straightforward. You take a ship, you move it, you avoid getting hit, and you shoot other things on the screen. And it's very straightforward, but until you master that gameplay piece, you really don't know the game. And in a way, you don't know yourself. But I think that learning that and learning the kind of discipline that it takes for that, like, sets you up for things like playing Dark Souls or doing other games I've been able to approach differently because of like that return to appreciation for the root of games as gameplay, right? Like that core that you need to learn what the mechanics of this thing are, practice these things, because it is about practice. Like, you're not meant to be good at it right away. If you are, then like, what's the point of the game? And then, yeah, you know, I think that for sure. There's something else recently where like it just didn't make sense until you played through it a whole time. I don't know, but yeah, I think those are some examples. Do you have something outside of Cookie Clicker that has done that for you?
Yeah. It's like whenever I think about video games in general, it's like Hotline Miami is always in the forefront of my brain for everything. And I'm just so used to thinking about it that I never really like questioned it, but how much like it actually has made an impact. Like, I don't remember much of an announcement when that came out. I just like, it looked cool from a video, tried it on a whim, and then me trying it on a whim was beating it the same night that I bought it. And I was like, wow, like everything about this. And then like, I want to learn, like, everything about it I just loved. So I wanted to learn more about it. I wanted to learn about the developers, where they came from, what was their background, how did they get this far, why these music choices. It changed how I just approached a lot of things, like how I come to appreciate games that I guess most people probably wouldn't look at right away. For something like that, because like, yeah, like it's a solid ass game and it's always on sale, like super cheap, and yeah, it can be just like a mindless, you know, kill everything and, you know, move on. But there's more art to it if you can see it, and because it's not like your typical like AAA game type thing, it kind of like has this weird like punk vibe to it, where it's like it has this rawness. It doesn't have like, it's a good solid game, but like I don't know how to talk about it without trying to like be dismissive about it. Like, it doesn't have like this super polish to it, but that's okay. That's not a bad thing. There's like there's this, the game has imperfections, and that's what makes it stand out so well to me, and that's what I love about it. So being able to like have that open mind where like, not every game needs to look the best, not every game needs to, you know, be a certain way. You could just appreciate it for what it is, and it kind of just has like this like fuck you vibe to it, to people who might be too judgy. Like, I just it's kind of similar with like Grasshopper.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is what we're doing. Then, you know, you can either get on the ride or don't.
Yeah, but like, and then like, but yeah, like the soundtrack, like it's so good that like it's broadened my music tastes, and then the, you know, the artists that go into it made me appreciate their art and like that type of like abstract stuff, and it's always on the forefront of everything, and I just never realized how much it kind of dictated like how I thought about things or how I approach something or whatever. And then like and I just the respect of that, just the coolness of just like, all right, two dudes made a game. They got some friends to put some music on there. Like it felt like it really came from like a good place. It wasn't made for some big corporation to like to poop out. Like this was a passion project at some point. And then, you know, they did the second one, and then they're like, that's it. We're done. Like, we're not going further. And then, you know, Jack was so iconic, he became a cameo in all these other indie games or what have you. And it's cool in that regard, too. Like, kind of like Shovel Knight in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Just that has changed. That has changed my life.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one, too. Like, that one thing that can kind of springboard into a bunch of other things. Like I had that with a movie where a song was played, and that song led me to find other artists like that artist, and then that opened up like all the, like there's definitely those things in life where like you just have these little seemingly insignificant, right? Like how many games do you play a week, a year, right? Like in a decade, and like it's insignificant in that way because the action of playing a game happens for us, I think, a ton of the time. But yeah, those little moments where like one can like push through and find some part in your brain that was just waiting to be unlocked, and now that it is, it's like, oh, everything's changed, everything's different because of this one thing.
Right. And people might think like, what, like you must play this game every day. It's like, I actually don't. It's like very, very seldom that I play it, but when I do play it, it's like I never forgot it. It's just it's like riding a bike every time. Yeah,
and I think there's parts of it too, like even with Nier, where it, there's like little. It's a weird thing. Like it's hazy more often than not, but like there is this weird little like dim light that goes off of just connecting those threads between something. There's, you know what I mean? There's
right, and like whatever vibes it gives off, like whatever like complex vibe that it has built up from all these things, you kind of try to find that in other games. Like you like you start to develop like, all right, this is my taste, how far can I branch this without it having to be this exactly. Like you don't want like a rip off of the game, you don't want an exact like knockoff of it, but you want those same similar vibes carried whichever way you can, whether it is through movies or music or video games or books or fashion or fuck it, food. Like,
yeah, I mean literally it could be that sometimes, right? Like yeah. Cookie clicker, huh?
It's a life changer, man.
yeah, really. We're gonna close out this episode, not right now, but with a conversation on card games, because 2 new card games got unveiled a little bit this week. The first is Inscription, coming from publisher Devolver Digital, which is self-described as an inky black card-based odyssey that blends deck-building roguelike gameplay with escape room puzzles and psychological horror. A release date and a demo for the game will be coming later this month. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
Like, the art style just looks really, really, really cool. Yeah, I hope that the release date is soon. But I think kind of coupled with Loop Hero, sorry, I was like really trying to remember that one. Hopefully it's a Loop Hero situation where we get a demo that we can play and pour ourselves into for a couple of weeks before launch of the game comes out, and then we can dive in. That one looks really, really neat. I'm intrigued by it and excited for it. Since that initial thing, we haven't seen no news, right?
No. I think it's only been that since. But if anyone who is curious, Daniel Mullins Games is developing that, and I played one of their earlier games called Pony Island. It's kind of like, it's one of those like horror games that like breaks the fourth wall, where it's like, you know, you're playing like a corrupted game and, you know, like that type of thing. has a very like arcadey theme to it. It's simple in its concept, but I think it was still pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like super creepy to me, but that's not a knock on it or anything. But just seeing that and then seeing Inscription and just seeing that jump in skill and just seeing all that talent just grow, it's very awesome to see stuff like that happen.
Yeah,
and this hits everything that I like about it too. Like,
yep,
the deck building, the horror vibes, the escape room puzzles. I'm a big sucker for those.
Yeah, this is it seems like there's like a lot of like lore baked into each card. This is like from very, very early, whatever. But like there's something kind of wholly realized in this that I am excited to see unfold. It looks like it's launching on Windows first. I don't see anything about additional platforms at the moment, but I know we recently got the announcement that Loop Hero was coming to Switch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe other console. I can't remember if it was more than Switch, but yeah.
Devolver bookending the year.
Yeah, man, really. Like, just a lot of great output. And there's been other stuff that's popped up this year, too, that I don't know that I've, like, fully jumped into, but yeah, super, super good. They did Death's Door, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Another announcement this week was, what is it called? Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars from Square Enix. There's a trailer out for this, small, short teaser trailer, which I guess in this way, when we think of teasers, like, I don't believe there's any release date for this one. Yeah, more information about the title will be available at a later date. So we got a logo and a trailer that really just has some Japanese voiceover, some images on the screen. There's not a lot at all. But I think in terms of teasing a game and an initial announcement, the fact that this is a unique RPG title presenting an enchanting story completely depicted by cards, developed by the minds behind Nier and Drakengard, including Yoko Taro, Yosuke Saito, and Keiichi Okabe is working on this as well, doing the music. So, I mean, that's kind of all you need, right? Okay, the people that made those games that you like are going to make another one, except this time it's with cards. So I don't know if this is also deck building or if this is, what the way this will play out, but
right.
I don't know. All of this got me thinking about games I had already played that are similar to this. Like I played a lot. We talked about, I think around February or so, I was playing one called Miyamoto. I played another one. I don't remember any of the names of the other ones. But there's that realm. It was that deck building. Some of them were roguelike. Some of them were just adventures. Some of them were different, styles of gameplay. Now, more recently, I started poking at Magic a little bit because they announced a cool werewolf and vampire set that's coming. And then I bought a bunch of Pokemon cards like a week ago for some reason. So I think mostly just because they were there and I could, I think that finally came to fruition. But I've still been like playing, but like not a ton. But I will literally jump in and do like 1 or 2 versus matches in that Pokemon app on iPad or something, just like whatever. And then I've been like toying with the idea of building a physical deck and trying to figure out how to play Pokemon Solitaire. But I guess to that, it's made me think about like, what is the perfect card game for you? And specifically, like, I kind of wrote some questions. Like, for you, would it be digital or physical?
Now, probably digital. Like, as much as I appreciate physical, I feel like that's just a bigger investment and not as convenient.
What if, because for me, the perfect would be both.
Yeah.
You can buy them so you can physically have them, but what you buy, you also unlock in the game.
Yes.
I do like the Pokemon approach of buying a booster, you get a booster in the game. Because you get that excitement of surprise what's inside twice for the same cost. But I think that would be neat. I think there's like the thing that trips me up about a lot of these is just the deck acquisition and I think deck building is so much fun to do, but you know, in any of these card games, very quickly, a few very good decks. Balancing this stuff, I can't imagine. Like, obviously, it's full-time jobs because there's plenty of people who do this, but I can't imagine what it takes to balance one of these. But that's the thing is like you might build a deck that you think is just cool and fun, and then someone builds a deck that is of the meta, and then you're not having fun anymore. Mm-hmm. So for me, like the perfect thing would be where really I think like. So I've been playing Mario Kart Tour also, just checking in here and there. And I noticed that when you do their little like pipe pull thing where you can like, you know, unlock, you spend the gems to get whatever. I haven't done any of that crap, but there's like a daily one you can do for like free, but there's a number at the bottom, like a 100 out of 100. And I don't know that this is the case, but I think that number represents the number of pulls you would have to do before you'd unlock everything available in that thing. Now, obviously, in a game like that, they want you to spend more money, but there is a cap to how much you can spend. In a Pokemon and Magic, there's no cap to how much you can spend. Like, I guess there technically is, but like, I guess they do the thing where if you buy a box, you're guaranteed whatever, right? Or if you buy a case, there is a thing. Yeah. Just like when we were collecting Hero Clicks, like you can get everything as long as whatever, but there's still that random chance of like, you might just get a whole bunch of Magikarps. You know, like that. Two of the Pokemon, I ran to the store and I just figured while I'm there, I might as well grab two more. Neither of them had any cool cards. They were like basic art, but not the full card art. And they were the shiny versions, but like the packs I bought last week, I had like full card art, thick, shiny EX cards or whatever they are. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was a definite difference in that where like, and I was getting like, I got like 2 Hypnos in a thing and a couple of Fletchlings or something, whatever, like repeats. Yeah. So I think for me to go back to the perfect card game, I think a thing where you know that the maximum you could spend on this is $200, right? But if you spend $200, you're guaranteed to get one of everything, or at least, you know, because maybe you have to have multiples to build a good deck or whatever, but like you'll get enough to build any deck combination. Maybe that's the idea. I think that would be a neat. If I knew that, I could spend that max and get all the physical and all the digital versions. That I think is a thumbs up.
Yeah, and it has to be actually be possible to buy physically without scalpers.
Yes.
Like ruining the whole thing. So it can't be popular. The game can't be popular.
I'm fine with that. This is just a game for me and you to play anyway.
Yeah.
So
and less foil cards.
Yeah.
I think Pokemon kind of took away the magic of that. With any card could be a foil, like reverse, hollow, whatever.
Yeah.
Because now, because now full body art is the new holographic. Like,
yeah, I got a holographic card and don't care that I got it because it was
right.
Who cares? This is the stack I bought last night. Let me see. You got Jumpluff. Look at this. Who cares? Do you care? No, neither do I. Like what? And then the other pack I had one, and it was Scrafty
again. No.
Who wants a holographic Scrafty? No
Somebody
one.
Actually might though.
No, they don't. No one's favorite Pokemon is Scrafty.
That you never know, man. You never. I knew someone who liked the evolved form.
What's the evolved form? I forget the.
I think it's like Scraggy or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless I got them backwards, I don't know. But every Pokemon is someone's favorite.
I guess that's fair. All right, so it can't be popular.
Can't be popular.
You need to be able to get everything with a finite amount of money.
Yeah.
I want the option to play in person or online.
Yes.
What theme is it?
Oh, the theme.
Like, I feel like I'm always a sucker for anything kind of spooky and weird and whatever.
Yep, supernatural.
Yeah. All right, I got it. What about a trick-or-treating game?
Cryptids.
Yes. A trick-or-treating game where you run into cryptids in the woods or something on your trick-or-treat adventure.
It's just like a more gruesome costume quest.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, should it focus on competitive multiplayer? Or could it?
I think it should have both competitive and cooperative.
I agree, and I want the aforementioned solitaire, because I often find that this game withstanding, this fake game we're making up, nobody ever wants to play with me anyway, so I need to be able to do this, collect it, and play alone, because there's no way to do that right now. Even in these digital versions of the games.
Like a story mode.
Yeah, there needs to be a story mode, so to speak. Some sort of adventure you can go on. And maybe that's just you building 2 decks and putting them head to head. Maybe it's a thing where there's specific villain cards or monster cards, right?
Do you want board game expansions? Does it still get labeled as a card game at that point? Or is that going too far?
Interesting. I'm okay with expansions. Because I do love the idea that, like, I know there's like tournament rules and whatever, but I've got a box of Pokemon cards from 2016. There's probably some in there from like 2012. I have Magic cards that I bought in like 2008 and Magic cards that I bought last year. And I love the idea that I could theoretically pick any of them up as long as they're whatever, build a deck out of them and use them. So to that end, yes. I think expansions are great.
I think the physical one should be not as much because I think that would excel more as a digital thing. Because you could just build a whole entire campaign mode if you wanted around that. Like, Pokemon trading card game, there's a Game Boy game of that.
Yes.
You could do something like that if you wanted to, or something similar along those lines, but built for like a phone or tablet, But I think there's something there with that. I think there's more freedom digitally to just create content for it without having to like pay an arm and a leg and have to worry about production costs and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. How would you... Would it be booster packs? Is that how you earn the new cards? Or would you also get them by completing chapters in the adventure? Because now I'm thinking single player.
I think there could be campaign exclusive cards. Maybe they're not OP, but maybe there's just something to them. Or maybe it's just like a variant.
Can you trade cards with your friends or strangers?
Sure. I don't know why you would. I don't know how you could stop anyone from doing that.
I guess physically, yeah. Who cares? Would there be a benefit to it? Like, I guess if you hadn't completed the set, then it would, or you don't want one in your particular deck.
Yeah, I think so. I think there could be a benefit to it. There's always room for that. That might bring in more complications, and balancing problems. But I think it's good to have that option always.
Do you think that the only way you can get in is to obtain all of the cards? So you make it a $60 card game. I feel like $60 is a reasonable investment. You make it a $60 card game where you buy it, you get everything up front, and you just go from. But at that point, is it a trading card game or is it a board game?
It can be labeled as both, because you can get expansions to said thing.
Sure.
But yeah, trading is a little weird. I guess it depends on the type of game, because if it's like character specific, you probably can't trade, because usually the cards in that deck pertain to the character on the board and just how all that works. So yeah, it would just be it wouldn't be a collectible card game, but it would be a card game nonetheless.
I feel like there's a design document waiting to be written somewhere. There's something swirling up here that...
Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, let's get it. I've got an afternoon ahead of me. Yeah. Have you been playing any card games recently?
Funny enough that you said solitaire, because I play that often.
Yeah.
And it was yesterday actually that I changed the theme on it, and I was thinking spooky. So right now, I customized it, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it. But I have like the old like Windows like 95 like solitaire deck cards. I usually pick those, but now this time I have like the long winding road going up to the castle.
Oh yeah.
It's going out of focus, but you can imagine it.
I remember the picture of it. I remember that image.
Yeah, with all like the bats and the moon, and then the background I custom put in there. It's actually a school desk. You can see a weasel like carved into it, and other words and pencil writings all over the school desk, because I was picturing like, like you're in middle school or high school or something. It's getting around fall time and just playing a little spooky themed card game. It's just.
Is it transporting you there?
Yeah.
I pulled up the other card games. I have not been playing anything outside of the aforementioned, but Meteor Fall, Crummets Tale was one from before. Night of the Full Moon was another.
Okay.
Yeah. I think those were the main two that I spent a lot of time with.
The
Night of the Full Moon had a very good creepy aesthetic to it.
Like the last ones I played were like board game based, but they were like character decks or whatever. The most recent one was like it was sci-fi, but it had like horror elements to it. So it had like kind of like Dead Space vibes to it a little bit of Alien in there.
What's it called?
Oh man, I wish I knew the name. I'd have to look for it. But before that, I was playing a dark fantasy, or maybe it's just fantasy. I don't know. Whatever. Tabletop game, but it was like a legacy game. So like all your progress, like your character would level up, and then that would grant you access to other cards that you couldn't get in the deck because you had to be a certain level to get these skills. But that one's called Gloomhaven. And
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's all about like the choices you make actually matter. It's permanent, and you can and like throughout the game you're unlocking more heroes you could play as, new cards. But like, the trick to that game was that like you had to like be careful because you had a small deck, but you had to make sure not to run out. If you ran out, you die. And the dungeons you get thrown in were so tough, and like you had to rely on cooperation. So like you had to like really, you couldn't exactly plan out all of your skills together. You kind of had to like think what you think is going to work with everybody and just hope for the best that it all kind of works together. But yeah, that one's very challenging. There is a Steam version of that too. It's pretty cool. Very in depth.
Card games. They're back. They never left. Actually, I just feel like, I think there is I don't know. I think there's a general appreciation for, there's certain things like that are just coming back. And like, what's the, there's something I was just thinking about from like, it was always niche, but now it's like way blown up in a good way.
I mean, I know a lot of people love Yu-Gi-Oh, but I don't know.
I mean, more. There's like there's a thing that like I think I don't know.
And like Digimon, I can't believe there isn't a digital version of that card game.
Yeah, it's in the title.
It blows my mind. Like you have
Very
a tutorial app. That's the closest you're going to get, and you're versing AI with the starter decks, and that's it. I'm like, this. You have it. You have the blueprint right here. Just build on it.
Well, they still have that full. I mean, it's not officially sanctioned, but there is all that stuff in the the digital, or not digital, in Tabletop Simulator, right?
Yeah. All the cards are there. I don't know if it's updated, but
yeah,
there's stuff there. And also, like, a question with like a perfect card game, like, do you want it to be how complex do you want that game to be?
That's a tough one too, because it's like you don't want it to be not. I would love it. I love when a thing you can discover secrets about it way after the fact, and you as you learn more of it, you get more intricately connected to it, right? Like, but I don't want it to be so complicated that it bars entry at the beginning, because I have little patience for that. I should be able to sit down and get it right away.
Yeah.
Like I think like Magic on the whole is a good card game, right? Like, you get it. There's a color. You can kind of learn the basic rules quickly. Like, you got to be able to put down enough land to play the things, defeat the other guy, right? Like, it's pretty straightforward. But there is a level of, like, competence you must have if you're going to start to compete higher and higher, and, you know, knowing which thing counters which color best, or how to deal with a certain attack or offense, how to defend against those things. There are layers to that get complicated through the years of changes and add-ons, etc. So yeah, I do want it, but not. That's a very very, very difficult thing to balance. I think in our game, like our single player mode, I think maybe just like you ramp up the types of cards that are in there and then let it happen staggeringly naturally. I don't know.
Yeah, because like with Pokemon, like it started out pretty simple. Like I think like the trainer cards, or like the item cards or whatever, were like kind of the part that made it a little more, that added more variance to it. It would definitely switch things up. But now, like, they added more like abilities that don't cost energy, and a lot of that now like kind of takes over. And along with everything, I feel like they keep adding more and more to it, or they switch things out rather, like maybe swap some features and whatever. And I think it's still approachable, but at the same time, I can get a little overwhelmed with it just because like the whole like meta thing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But Digimons, I really appreciate, because it's just the concept of a virtual pet turned into cards. You know, you have the baby part, and then you raise them, and then you put them out in the field to fight once they're raised, like once they're grown enough to fight. Yeah, and then kind of like, and then you have yourself to worry about, kind of like a Hearthstone or something, where like you can get attacked.
Yeah, you can be attacked. Yeah.
So, but you have your firewall to protect you, and then that's where those cards come into play, where it's like it could just affect that, and then the only thing with your Digimon is just a numbers game, whereas the bigger number at the end is just the winner. It's not really HP in that sense, but like that's it. And I was like, all right, that's cool.
I've been looking for those too as I peruse the card section in Target.
I gave up.
I haven't even noticed a SKU for it on the wall. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's even made.
You got to go to like a hobby shop for it or something. That's
the
only way you're gonna find it.
Maybe as they get production up and running a little more. I don't know. Yeah, that was a show. That was the show, The Free Cheese, episode 418. We had some pretty good discussions this week, I think. I know next week we'll probably be talking some Final Fantasy 15. I know I've been playing it. I know someone else who is not on this week's show has been playing it. Yeah. So we'll talk about that. Who knows? I think there's some stuff happening. I'm now swirling in this this card game headspace, along with I don't know. Something's happening here. I don't know that I like it, but something's happening. So we'll see where that takes us in the next week. Hope maybe the inscription demo will drop and I can scratch the itch there. But yeah, speaking of the connective synapse, something went off and now it's connecting somewhere else. I'm reaching across the branch. I'm trying to climb to the edge of the branch to see how far I can go before it breaks. So let's see if I can find the fruit, or if I just snap and go all the way to the bottom here. Before the metaphor completely runs out, I'll invite you to send us an email, podcast@thefreecheese.com. Let us know what you think is a good trailer or when marketing should stop. Tell us which Game Boy games you think would work well on Switch. And what would your perfect card game be? Also, let us know if you've found your way to the true calling of life after this week's intervention. I don't know that it's. I don't know what to call it. We'll leave it as it is, and let people experience the true power within. Right.
Absolutely.
Until next week. Podcast thefreecheese.com. Mark is at aug_mental. The free cheese is at some free cheese. That's it. Mark, final word?
Cookie clicker is life.
We'll be back next week with episode 419. Bye.
Cookie clicker